Hey everybody, Lena and I here with Mike Sherbakov today. Thank you, Mike, so much for joining us. We are honored to have you here and excited.
Oh, thanks so much.
So Mike is the founder of the Greatness Foundation and also a social entrepreneur, philanthropist. Mike, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
A little bit more about me. Let's see. we'll do the 30-second rundown. How about that? Yeah. I was in the Marines for 5 years. I think that's a good place to start. Yeah. Transitioned out, fell in love with this idea of actualizing potential, pushing edges, and seeing, where we can really go physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Ended up doing my undergrad in kinesiology and psychology. And at that point, really started to fall in love with what it was like to live a life of greatness. Started to kind of volunteer and get involved in service projects around the world. And now fast forward, however long it's been, and I get to run the foundation, which is on a mission to positively impact 1 billion lives. We work with companies like Lululemon and Fitbit and Equinox and Qualcomm and all of these incredible organizations and just get them into the conversation about how can we have a larger picture and give back.
Cool. That was perfectly timed.
Yeah.
Was it 30? Okay.
You were really watching the clock.
No, it sounded like it was 30 seconds, so it was good. Okay, so we have, usually we talk for like hours, and I'm sure we all could, but we have like 30 minutes, so we'll get straight to it. First question, what does energy mean to you? Because we all kind of have different ways we interpret this word, and we've given our insight quite a bit on here, but what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I do think, I come from a very sciencey background. Both my parents are physicists, and I've always been, really into math and physics, and I'm a super nerd. A lot of people don't know that about me. I geek out over this kind of stuff. And so I've always been looking at, how do we bridge this world of kind of like physical and spiritual? And, what I found with energy is everything on an atomic or subatomic level is vibrating at a certain frequency. I mean, we know that when we zoom in, everything is just vibration. And then I started to think, well, when someone comes into a room and like you say they have really great energy, or if someone doesn't, you're like, I'm getting a bad vibe about this person or this place or something. There's something to that. And although I can't explain it on a very scientific level, for some reason it just feels like certain energy matches with other energy. Like there's a reason that we're all having this conversation right now. There's a reason that, we are compelled into these kinds of circles and social networks and conversations. And then there are other things that we feel kind of repelled by, where we feel like we don't need to go there. Mm-hmm. And so energy for me is probably the single most important thing that, although I can't truly explain, I feel like I just need to follow it. If something feels right to me, it's this intuition of I need to go do this, or I need to be around this person, then I'll go do that. And if something doesn't feel like it's an energetic match, then I don't.
I think you hit the nail on the head. When we first started trying to figure out, okay, what does it mean to us? It took us a minute to kind of put it into words. We're like,
we built this course, and then we're like, how do we define
that? And I'm like, well, for me, it's a feeling. Like for me, I'm a feeler though, so I'm like, everything is a feeling to me. But yes, there is a scientific level to it, and that's a huge component of it as well. So I like that you touched on both.
To me, like I feel like you can shift your energy, and I think we all believe this as well. And like, so my go-to kind of definition that I've worked out is it's kind of like your thoughts and your emotions and your past experiences and your feelings, just kind of like on a subtle level, and it makes this vibration that you give off. So you can kind of shift your energy if you're feeling it's in a low place, right? And that's kind of what we teach in our course, is how to shift it. So does that bring us to like the second question?
Yeah. So, I have another question that popped up. So, what do you think makes up the energy? Like, how could you shift it, or what would you do to shift that?
Yeah, I think it's another great question, and an important. I feel like it's the natural follow-up question. We say, well, if everything is energy, and we are kind of these beings that get to control that, then how do we change it, right? And I can't recall the name of the book I read, but it pretty much identified an energy attached to different states of being, from 1 to 1,000. And, 1,000 is like this ultimate state of bliss where everything just that's like the best way to describe it. And, and then the 100 to 200 range are these feelings of like anger or jealousy or fear, these things where we just feel off, right? And I think a lot of us, and the book talks about how we kind of operate in about a 300 range, like anywhere between 2 and 300. And there are certain things that we can do that bring us into the higher levels, right? And as we come into these higher levels of energy, then all of a sudden we're presented with new opportunities and resources and people that we otherwise wouldn't have come across. And so I think, the single most effective thing for me has been yoga. I don't know if you're both yogis, but yoga more than anything, it's kind of this taboo thing for a lot of people because they say, oh, I'm not good, I'm not flexible. And I tell them it's not about being flexible. I think yoga is ultimately meditation. And what meditation does is it brings you back into your natural state of alignment. It kind of, all these external forces are often like weighing down. And if we remember the frequency that we're tuned into very naturally, I feel like meditation brings us to that state. So I feel like, it doesn't necessarily add anything new, but it just almost like cleanses and clears everything away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So probably what you mean by that is just clearing your mind, resetting your thought process so that you can choose a better thought.
Yeah, so, and this is my personal belief, I don't know if there's science to back this, but so whenever I'm in Shavasana at the very end of a yoga class, or if I'm really deep in meditation, like the only thing that I really feel is like love and peace. Like it feels like it's the highest, it's that 1,000, energy level vibration. And I do believe that is our natural state. And just like when, right now, all of these energies and frequencies are around us right now. Like, let's say 105.3, which a radio station, you can't hear it right now because you're not tuned into it, right? But if you're in a car and your antenna's tuned to it and you pick it up, then you go, okay, cool, now I can hear it. I think that we are the same way. We're the most powerful transmitters and receivers of energy. And if we can just kind of clear the static and the noise and tune back in to what our natural set point is, which I believe is love and peace, then we start to attract all of those incredible things into our life and we get to live a life of purpose and intention and fulfillment.
Couldn't have said it better.
Nailed it, Mike.
Oh, cool.
I can't wait to show you the course because I think you're going to really align with some of the stuff we say in there.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just touch on one other quick thing. The meditation, I think, is the single most effective practice I've found. Obviously, like our body has this natural state that it wants to come back to. And so if we're providing it an optimal environment, and that obviously involves the kind of food that we're putting in our body, right? That it involves moving the body in the way that it wants to. These dynamic, beautiful bodies want to be active and they want to be nourished and operate in like the best possible way. And that includes, surrounding ourselves with people who are nurturing our growth and relationships and putting ourselves in a really good state of mind. So, doing our best to clear out these negative thoughts and self-limiting beliefs. And there's so many aspects to it.
Like
but
our entire course.
I think you just summed up our whole course.
Like, you've already seen our course. Like, everything.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, just explain it in an hour and it's 4 weeks.
Well, I love it. To be honest, it's really cool because that the more people that understand this, and like we were talking about before, we hit record on this, is we all speak it in our own language. I feel like intuitively we feel it. We go, man, this feels incredible when we're in alignment and when we're taking care of ourselves and when we're eating the right things and we're moving our bodies and we're surrounding ourselves with the right people. We know how incredible it feels and we want to share that with everyone else. And oftentimes we don't know exactly how to explain that. So the language you use may be very different than the language I use. And I hope that, they say your life is your message to the world, make it inspiring. Like I hope that our lives are inspiring and communicated in a way that other people understand them.
Mm-hmm. I like that you brought up meditation. That's huge for us. We have a bunch of recorded meditations in our course. I don't know about for you, but for me, it's like the more I practice, the better I feel, the higher vibe I feel, the more energy I actually feel in meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Like it starts to get a little bit crazy how much more intuitive you get, how much more tapped in you get. It's just, life takes on a whole new direction.
Yeah. And it's really funny because when life gets busy, as we can all relate to, generally health and meditation and those kinds of things are the first things to fall off, right? We go, well, I'll do that later. And the Dalai Lama, I remember watching this interview with him, he was asked, what's the single most effective practice that someone can implement in their life to find, a sense of peace and well-being? And he says, meditate for 20 minutes a day. And the interviewer asks him, he goes, well, what if they're so busy they don't have 20 minutes? And the Dalai Lama says, they need 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I remember that all the time, where I feel, whenever I feel super busy, and I don't have time for it, that's actually when I need it the most.
Double time, yeah.
Double time.
Yeah. And when I first started meditating, I don't know what it was like for you or how long you've been meditating, but for me it's been a few years. So I would start for 5 minutes and be like, oh my gosh, I can't sit still. And now it's like, it's over. I feel like I could just continue on and on and on. It's just such a good feeling, and I think we want to bring that to people, because if people are new to meditation or this whole concept is new to them, they might have preconceived notions about what it is. And then once they try it, once they do it, they realize, wow, this is life-changing. This practice is, to me, it's like my coffee. I always tell people, it's I need to do it. I have to do it either in the morning or middle of the day. And I notice a huge difference if I don't. So,
yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's similar to yoga, where it still is kind of this taboo thing, right? A lot of people will hear meditation and go, well, that means going, to the top of the Himalayas and sitting in lotus. And meditation is so different for so many people. I actually like meditating laying down. I know the traditional yogis go, no, you have to be seated with a straight spine. There's not any one way to do it, right?
Yeah, I don't believe that either. I usually lay down too. I don't like sitting up straight doing it. I just want to be completely relaxed.
Yeah, totally.
So, cool.
So, okay, so I gather that your practices to get you into a positive state or into a good energy would definitely be yoga and meditation.
Yeah, and can I just quickly add one thing? And I feel like this is really important, because I've done a bunch of interviews like this, and I have conversations like this all the time. And it's really important to I don't ever want someone who's watching or listening to feel like, oh, they can do it and I can't. We have to be really honest and say, we're human, and there are many days where I'm I just don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. But because I've decided it's a non-negotiable for me, it's a commitment, it's something that, is a practice to me, that I continue to come back. And there are some days where I'm I'm in meditation and the monkey mind is just going and going and going, and I never once connect with actually getting in it. And I just want to make sure that's totally okay, right? That's kind of the beauty of it. But the practice, the consistency of coming back is really what's made the difference over the years.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool. A lot of people think that meditation has to look a certain way or be for a certain amount of time. And there's so many different ways. And I think it's also really about mindfulness and presence, and however you can integrate that into your day. Maybe it's 1 minute of deep breathing, and that's where you start.
Yeah.
And that is how you connect, and that works for you. And I think that that's just as good, and you have to start somewhere. And it doesn't have to be a 20-minute, if that doesn't go with you.
I started with mantra, a mantra mala meditation. I don't know if you've done those. Mala beads have 108 little beads on them, and someone gifted me malas, and what you do is essentially come up with a mantra. So for every morning, it was I am strong, or I am enough, or whatever that was for me. And you go through it, and you close your eyes, and you say it 108 times, as you're kind of counting the beads. And so when you get to the end of the malas, you've gone through 108. So that's actually how I started meditation, and then I started doing more of the breath work. And so that's another way is only bring all of your awareness to your breath, and you may at some point even zone out and forget where you are. What's that?
We both when you said that, we both just took it.
There's so many. And then another one is just to think. This one was introduced by a mentor of mine, and he said, just envision this candle right in the center of your mind, and everything else is dark. It's in this dark room, and every time that there's a thought that goes by, it kind of blows the candle a little bit. And what you're doing is bringing the candle as close to stillness as possible, just for a few minutes.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and that's a visualization, right? So there's so many different ways, and there's not a right way or a wrong way, but it's just our mind is so busy. Can we just bring more mindfulness and awareness to each moment?
Totally. So how do you think this awareness, having this awareness switch, so maybe think of a time in your life that you weren't in this mindset compared to now? How has this awareness just overall impacted your life?
It is the single most important transition that I've ever made. And I say that because, I was super uncomfortable with who I was. There were, in the Marines, there's this culture of you kind of like go out and you drink and you go to bars and start, and then even in college, there's kind of this culture of I wasn't aligned with it, right? It felt like this huge gap in integrity between who I knew I was capable of being and what I was doing, or what my life looked like on the outside. And I remember just always kind of knowing it, but I would always find ways to distract myself, right? So there was always someone to hang out with, or there'd be somewhere to go or something to do. And I was very uncomfortable being alone with myself, because I didn't want to face the fact that, hey, there's this like cognitive dissonance that exists. Like my thoughts, feelings, and actions are not in alignment. And the moment that I started to move into these practices of self-awareness and kind of asking myself, it was Plato or Socrates that said the quality of your life depends upon the quality of the questions you ask yourself. So I would just kind of close my eyes and start asking myself, like, who am I? Like, who am I really? Without distraction. And it was really uncomfortable to sit with at first, because I had to face the reality that these things weren't matching up, and I was out of integrity. And like, I was lying to myself, and I had to like totally own that and say, hey, this is where I am now, and I choose to live differently moving forward, right? I choose to surround myself with people who are going to like foster this sense of growth and inspire and encourage me and uplift me. And I'm going to put the right things in my body, and I'm going to take care of my body in the way that I know it, that it wants to. So it really was kind of the key to it all. And it still is for me. Anytime there's a decision to be made, if I find that I get quiet long enough, like the answers come, right? And so now it's probably the most incredible feeling is to know that it's always there. It's a strong sense of kind of intuition. It's like I'm being guided, and it comes back, to kind of close the loop on the very first conversation. What is energy? I feel like and I don't even have to put a word to it or try to explain it, but there's some kind of guiding force that is doing its best to express like me fully. Like I am 1 in 7 billion people, and just like you are, and just like everyone listening or watching is, and there's a unique set of strengths and skills and passions that no one else in this world has. So it's this unique recipe, 1 in 7 billion, that is like just dying to express itself and wants to show up in the world fully. And the more that we can just like tap in and actually find out what that is, the more that we can show up in the world and do it.
And that's being in alignment, right?
It's true alignment. It is like the most, it's being who you're meant to be.
Nothing feels better than that. But it often takes turmoil and a lot of pain to get there, to want to do that searching, to want to go deep. And I feel like I love your story, because we all have one. And it all usually comes from a troubled past, or, really feeling that pain so deep that you have to find a way to get yourself out of it. I think the most remarkable thing is once you go down that path, it happens fairly quickly. You can turn around fairly quickly once that awareness switch comes on and you bring all these practices in. I feel like it's just that moment of recognition is enough to spark just great change.
Yeah, and it starts with that. And you kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell and his work, and he talks about the hero's journey, right? And he says that everyone in their lifetime receives this, he calls it a CTA, a call to action or a call to adventure, where the phone is ringing in your life. And I imagine we've all felt that, where it's ringing and it's saying like, hey, Mike, you're here to do something amazing. And what he tells us in this story is we often don't answer the phone, right? It may be a week, a year. For some people, it's 30, 40, 50 years of them not answering this call that they know like what they're capable of. But at some point, like you mentioned just now, when you do answer it, you cross the threshold, and once you've crossed it, you actually can never go back.
There's no
You never want to anyway.
Yeah, because you know what you're capable of now, and you know that it's gonna be hard, and there's obstacles and challenges, and it's like
the call gets louder and louder and louder.
Totally. Like, yeah, it's the point of no return.
Yeah. Cool. I love that. Yeah.
What is the name of the book again?
Well, he has a couple, but he has A Hero with 1,000 Faces, and then this one's The Hero's Journey.
Okay, by Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell, yeah.
Cool. Definitely.
So, what is your overall direction with the Greatness Foundation? Tell us a little more about that.
Well, it actually really relates to this conversation because I feel like, in school we're taught how to write in cursive and how to do fractions, but when do we ever learn about kind of actualizing potential and asking ourselves these very, very. So the mission of the Greatness Foundation is to positively impact 1 billion lives, and the way that we do that is through education, inspiration, and empowerment. We provide education through podcasts and articles and interviews, which is always free and available to everyone. And then I find that, a great way to find ourselves is to get involved in things bigger than us. So what I encourage everyone in our community to do is to get involved in projects that they're passionate about. So I lead projects around the world, from Mexico to Asia to India and Africa, and people are always welcome to come on those. It's not necessarily you have to come on those, but at least find what it is you're passionate about and get involved in that.
Wow. So are the trips through? So you arrange these trips on your own?
Yeah. So what I do as the foundation is we find organizations that we think are doing incredible work in the world, and we partner with them. Okay. We essentially say, hey, we have these incredible resources, and I have an amazing team who supports this whole thing, plus incredible board members. And the board members range from angel investors to philanthropists to CEOs of really big companies. And they've kind of agreed to come on board and say, yeah, we're willing to support with resources if needed. And so it's very mutually beneficial because we get to help these organizations be more successful, and we get to bring people into their experience.
I think that's awesome, because I think a lot of people want to get involved and they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Totally. And my goal is to make it as easy as possible. In fact, the first call to action on the Greatness Foundation is to go to the inspiration page and it's to click Take the Pledge. It's a free pledge that you take. That's a manifesto that pretty much says, I commit to living a great life, because we all know that it's these baby steps. It's these micro commitments. Yeah, sure. And so first you say, okay, cool, I commit, I'm going to do this. Even if you may not for a week or 2 or 3, it's going to be at the back of your mind. You're like, oh, I made that pledge. It's like, I promised that person that I was going to be great.
Way to hook them with that. That's smart.
Totally. And I hope that it does. Like, I hope that they feel a little guilty if they're not living their greatness, because at least it's a reminder to come back. And then at some point, maybe they get involved with a trip, or maybe they get involved with an organization that's local to them, or they go volunteer for an hour a week at an animal shelter because that's what they care about. And it's going to be so different for everyone, but I just want everyone to ask that question of, like, what are you passionate about? What makes you come alive? What do you want to do? And this is the last thing I'll say, because I think we may be getting close to the time, but, there's a really famous article that came out on the Huffington Post by Dr. Bronnie Ware. Are you guys familiar with it?
No.
So she's an Australian palliative care nurse and studied patients in their last 8 weeks of life. And she wrote a book, but the book was really popular and then turned into a blog post. And it was called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. So these people are in their last 8 weeks of life. A lot we can learn from them, hundreds of patients. And she asked them, what are your biggest regrets? And there was 5 big ones, but the number one regret that 100% of them had across the board was, I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So, man, if there's something that we can learn from people that are facing death and who are being as real and honest as it gets, because at that point in your life, there's no point in, you're not pretending to be anything. And they're telling us, I regret not living a life true to me. For me, that is such a wake-up call on a daily basis. I'm always asking myself, am I living a life true to myself? And I can, say with true integrity and authenticity that I am, right? I didn't used to, and now I am, and there's no better feeling than that.
what's great is, and I know we have to go, but every time one person does this, and I know you guys have all heard this concept, but it really does like illuminate that in other people and shows people that they can do that as well. Because I think a lot of fears come up around that topic because everyone wants to be doing, you know, what is in alignment, but it brings so much fear. So kind of the more people that do it and follow that, it starts a ripple effect. So it's really cool.
Yeah, the beauty is it's not about us going out and changing anyone. We get to decide what alignment looks like for us, what a life of purpose is to us. And just by living it and doing it, like you guys are following your Dharma with this project, right? Just by doing it, you inspire other people. It all of a sudden, it gives people permission. And if you've ever taken Landmark, this concept of possibilities, a possibility of being authentic and purposeful is available to them now. Like they see someone doing it and they go, yeah, I can too.
Right. Sure.
So we give other people permission to do that just by us showing up in the best way we know how.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I think that's really aligns with our mission too, which I'm sure is why we were brought together to do this. So is there anything else you want to say to our audience?
No, I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I love connecting with like-minded people and just collaborating and hearing other people's ideas. And it's a beautiful thing to continue this conversation because, like you said, what we're doing now is it's just lighting candles. Right. And they say, when you light another candle, you don't lose any life from that candle. Right. And so if we can all go out and light these, candles all over the world, all of a sudden we are, let's close the loop here, like elevating the energy and the vibration of the entire planet.
Exactly. I love that.
Perfect. Well, we know you have to get going. So thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
So great.
You're welcome. It was really great to connect with you both.
Yeah, and maybe we'll run into you in San Diego.
Yeah, please do. Keep me posted. It gives people permission, and if you've ever taken Landmark, this concept of possibilities, a possibility of being authentic and purposeful is available to them now. Like they see someone doing it and they go, yeah, I can too.
Right.
Sure.
So we give other people permission to do that just by us showing up in the best way we know how.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I think that's really aligns with our mission too, which I'm sure is why we were brought together to do this. So is there anything else you want to say to our audience?
No, I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I love connecting with like-minded people and just collaborating and hearing other people's ideas. And it's a beautiful thing to continue this conversation because, like you said, what we're doing now is it's just lighting candles. Right. And they say, when you light another candle, you don't lose any life from that candle. Right. And so if we can all go out and light these, candles all over the world, all of a sudden we are, let's close the loop here, like elevating the energy and the vibration of the entire planet.
Exactly. I love that.
Perfect. Well, we know you have to get going. So thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
So great.
You're welcome. It was really great to connect with you both.